Hi, everybody. This is Nicki Clyne. You may know me as Crewman Specialist Cally from Battlestar Galactica or Commander Gail Gartner from the upcoming Personal Space. I'm here talking with Chris Gordon of Hellblazer Biz.
Everyone, I have the honour and the delight of the company of Nicki Clyne, who is from Personal Space, which is coming up soon, and obviously Battlestar Galactica. So, hello, Nicki.
Hi, nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh no, I appreciate your time. It's like I say, it's been a while in the making. Finally getting schedules together where we can get together and do this. So I really do appreciate it.
Indeed. Yes, and thanks to technology, we can be so far away and feel so close. Isn't it great?
It is, definitely. Even though I've got something having a heart attack when I was at work, and I had a message from you saying, we do in 10 minutes. I was like, oh!
No, it worked out well for me too, because I hadn't showered yet, so I'm glad I was able to wash my hair.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I was sat in work, and I was like, oh no! I was like, it takes an hour and a half for me to get home. I only just made it as well. The trains were cancelled. We get a slight dusting of snow in the UK, and the entire infrastructure just goes to hell.
Right. People see white and they just freak out, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like that where I grew up on the West Coast too, where people aren't prepared. Living on the East Coast is a bit different because people know what to do. So I think it's not as big of a deal, even though the weather's more severe. People are more prepared.
Yeah, definitely. You see some of the snowdrifts that they have on the East Coast as well. It's much worse than it is here. I used to live in Germany, and it was about 3 foot on the ground for 4 months as well of snow. It was minus 25, so...
That's no fun. I don't recommend that.
No, not at all. Although it was fun in the car doing, not that I should admit this on air, pulling the handbrake and doing 360.
Oh yeah, doing some donuts. Yeah. Classic.
That was a lot of fun. Anyway, so what we are here for is just obviously to find out about you, talk about a few questions we've got, or quite a few questions actually, which are on where you've, obviously Battlestar Galactica days and about Personal Space and what we can expect from there. So without further ado, we shall kick this off. So, how did you get into acting in the first place, Nicki?
Well, I was involved in a lot of different activities growing up. I played a lot of sports and instruments and kind of all the different kinds of nerdy things you can get into after school growing up. And acting class was one of those things. Mm-hmm. I think that combined with watching a lot of television. I grew up in the generation where TV was my babysitter. So naturally, I looked to the people on TV as role models and just thought it would be so cool to be one of those people on TV. I imagined it was such a fun job. And when I was in high school, I started doing theater. Mm-hmm. I played Annie in the school play, which thankfully, since she's a kid, I didn't have to be as good of a singer. Mm-hmm. I am in no way a triple threat if one of those things includes singing. But I got away with it at the time, and I just loved it. I had a really incredible drama teacher who pushed us and put on really professional shows. Mm-hmm. And people say like, you get bitten by the bug. I would say that's when it really happened. And I started thinking about ways that I could get involved in TV or outside productions. So I tried to get an agent and put myself out there. I have what is probably the opposite of, what do they call those moms? Like theater moms or stage moms? Yeah, mm-hmm. My mom is not that. So anything that I wanted to do with acting, I had to do myself. Not that she didn't support me, but she mm-hmm. worked full time and she wasn't going to, quit her job to support me going around to commercial auditions, etc. So whatever I did, I kind of figured out I'd take the bus to auditions, and I didn't start getting work until after I graduated high school. But I was really fortunate to live in Vancouver, where they filmed a lot of productions, Canada, because of the dollar, and I think different tax incentives, the business was really booming around that time. And so I just kind of happened to be in the right place at the right time. And funny enough, one thing that I think also contributed to getting some parts is when I was in high school, I had long blondish hair, kind of more similar to what I have now, which is a little ironic. And but right before I graduated, I chopped it all really, really short and dyed it dark. I was inspired by Angelina Jolie in Hackers. I don't know if you remember, but I was like, I thought I wanted to be cool, and I thought that was cool. And I think that having a different look, like being more edgier, helped me stand out than not just the typical girl next door. And so I started getting a number of roles of like the best friend or the mean girl at school or the kind of like badass chick. And that was fun. It helped because I had a bit of an edge in that respect. And I started getting small parts in TV and some commercials. And it just kind of took off from there. I did Dark Angel, Dead Zone, Smallville, Dead Like Me, all the Vancouver shows. I made the rounds. Yeah.
Excellent. I'll take you back to Annie as well, because I've got to say that's something we've got in common. Because when I was in high school, not that I was Annie, I would have made a pretty bad, made a pretty bad Annie. I was Drake the Butler.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so sure. I loved that. So I must have been in the equivalent of year 11th grade, I think it's about 16.
Okay.
Yeah, that's over here. So so that was the first time I was actually really introduced to getting wolf whistled, which that's the only time I've ever been wolf whistled. I'll actually hasten to add as well. But coming on in a full tuxedo and these little wolf whistles from the audience, and it was just that. And I think that was, for me, because I love acting and I love getting into it. And for me, not just the wolf whistles, but the feeling of going on stage. And I think at the time X-Files was on, because this is how old I am. It was back in the 90s, so I copied the FBI. I think there's a line with Daddy Warbucks. He comes in, so I was like, Daddy Warbucks is the FBI. And apparently everyone just said I said it with such a much disdain that it was absolutely perfect. It was probably a really, really well delivered line. I was like, seriously? I was just copying awesome. Fox Mulder or X-Files,
Right, yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, there's a little bit of thing we got in common from our childhoods.
Very cool, very cool. We have similar resumes.
Yeah, up until that point, then it goes completely. But it is great to hear. Obviously, how different people, how yourself got in there and growing up in Canada, because, like you say, Vancouver, I think, became a huge boom, and it still is.
Yeah,
a lot of the film industry has gone there. I mean, they've recently had Lucifer, for example, massive show up there. Although they've moved that back to LA now.
Oh, really?
Yes. Which I think was last season, but the massive, obviously Battlestar Galactica, that was Vancouver as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
So you've got all major shows going on, so it's a huge hotbed of activity.
And a lot of sci-fi. I think that what's cool and unique about Vancouver is it can look like a lot of different places, which means also a lot of different planets. Yeah. So that comes in handy when you're doing science fiction.
Exactly. And I mentioned the X-Files, and even that was Vancouver. So exactly. All the top shows. See, Canada's the place to be.
It is.
What a great way to grow. Great way to sort of a place to grow up in. Who were your kind of inspirations when you were growing up in the acting? Who did you aspire to be, or who? Was there anyone in particular?
I never have a good answer for that, because I didn't really follow anyone particularly in terms of their career. I liked, like I said, I watched a lot of TV, like after school specials. So I wanted to be on Who's the Boss, or I wanted to be on Saved by the Bell, or I wanted to be, those. I wasn't very cultured, like in my teenage years in terms of like real actors. I watched a lot of movies and stuff too, but it wasn't really something that I researched in terms of people's careers. I think later on, people like Cate Blanchett and Meryl Streep, and there's so many wonderful actresses now that I really admire their work. But it's not, I don't really think that way. Like, I just watch things and I'm either moved or I'm not, you know?
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. That's a good answer to have. It's, you know, I mean, by say there are lots of people, and it's great to, you know, you make your own path. You know, you can just go there and now you're inspiring to many other people. Yeah. So, like you say, when you're growing up, you know, that's and watching TV and wanting to be on it, and now now you're an inspiration to probably many, to too many people.
And that's the thing, is there's no formula. It's not something that you can just, like other vocations where you go to school and as long as you do well or, you know, pass the test, then you're pretty much guaranteed some sort of job in the industry. It really doesn't work that way. And I think that the most important thing is to develop who you are as a person, because if you don't know who you are, it's so much harder to understand and try on other characters and other people if you're still struggling with yourself. And I think to some degree, we're all struggling to figure out who we are throughout our lives. But the more I think you get in touch with your own values and are able to be vulnerable and connect with yourself emotionally, that those are the most important aspects, I think, of being an actor, as well as just life experience, you know, like just living, having been through stuff so that you can relate it to the characters you're playing.
And again, that's a really great way to have it, because you can just like you say, life experience counts for so much, and it is great to go out there and just relate that in whatever way you can to whatever you're going to be doing. Which is, you know, I mean, that's like, I mean, you know, relate it back to myself with this show, for example. I spent 20 years getting to find who I am and where I'm, you know, what I want to be, and I've carved a great career in IT and stuff. But now doing this show for 2.5 years, this is what I want to be, and it's, you know. And you can hopefully developing myself into quite a rapport to go through it. And you're right, because you have to, you know, find where you are and find who you are. And sometimes it takes people longer than others.
Totally. Yeah, definitely.
But it's definitely a great way to be. So Battlestar Galactica then, when you got cast as Cally, how did you feel? Because, I mean, obviously you were right from the very beginning, so it was a new show.
Yeah, it was a new show. I had no idea about the whole Battlestar kind of legacy or the earlier show. Yeah, I was born in the early 80s, so I missed watching the show. And when I got the audition, I only got the scenes for the audition and was told it was a sci-fi show. So I kind of compared it in my mind to everything else that was shooting at the time, like Stargate and Andromeda and those kinds of things. So I liked the character. You know, I thought that I thought I could do it. Like, sometimes you get scripts and you're like, well, I'll go, but it's not really, you know, I don't feel like I'm perfect for it. I felt like I was definitely capable, if I was what they were looking for. And funny enough, I went to the audition, and it took forever. Some auditions, it's really difficult too as an actor, because you show up ready. Yeah. So then you're like in the waiting room and you don't know when it's going to be your turn next, and you're like, oh, and you're ready, and then you have to wait another hour or something. So I was kind of emotionally exhausted by the time it was my turn. And I think it actually helped me, because I went in there and I just said, what, are you guys just filming the show so you don't have to hire us? Like, I went and made a joke, that was kind of a thing I used to do to, like, break the ice, but it worked in this case. Didn't always, but in this case it worked. They had a giggle, and I did the audition scene, and the only thing the director said to me, he's like, well, if everyone did it perfect like you, we wouldn't have to take so long. Oh, wow. Well, okay, thank you. And the only feedback he gave me was to get my bangs out of my face, which obviously I still fail to do, and to watch my Canadian accent, because there was the word sorry in the scene, and in Canadian you say that sorry.
Right.
which is sorry, which I didn't even notice that I did at the time. But after that, I moved to the US, and I got rid of all of those things because I got teased relentlessly, and also for acting, you kind of have to.
Mm-hmm.
But that was it. And then a few days later, my agent called and said, like, so what do you think of sci-fi? And I was like, depends. I like it. And she told me I got the part. I was really excited, and especially to be part of something at the beginning. None of us had any idea what it was going to become, but to be part of the creation of anything is really such a privilege and was really exciting. So I knew that it would be a great experience. It was a really great role. And that's pretty much all I knew. And then I started to find out more, like, as I read the script, and then we got sent to boot camp. I don't know if you know about that. They sent, like, all of us who were supposed to be in the military to this kind of, it was like 3 or 4 days of boot camp. I'm sure anyone who's actually been to boot camp would laugh at what it was, but it was hard. It was hard for us. It pushed us. And more than anything, it helped bond us as a cast. We did a lot of kind of team building exercises, like having to unravel this huge pile of knotted rope with blindfolds, or having to do really intense physical training, things that I think bring up, force you to kind of be vulnerable and rely on each other, and naturally different leaders would emerge, and we did really cool stuff. So that was neat, and the fact that they wanted to invest so much into us, building a rapport with each other and getting connected with our characters, and also learning how to salute, to march, to wear uniforms, those types of things. They really made those details important. So that was also very inspiring and reassuring. So it had all the signs of something that was going to be really good, but I really didn't understand what I was getting myself into. So it just kind of unfolded year after year, and I still can't believe how cool it was.
Fantastic. I mean, it's something that, it's just one of the coolest programs ever. And I know what you say about boot camp as well, because I know the Band of Brothers guys, they did one for what they did, and like you say, it builds team spirit. They're like that still, and it's like the same, exactly the same, probably at the same amount of time since they did that as you did to Battlestar, and they go everywhere. They used to go to reunions still in France every year for the anniversaries, because they went they went through an experience of learning things, just like you guys. So it's fascinating to hear that you did as well, which is
totally. And I really think I don't know what all the factors were that contributed to the chemistry of our cast and crew, but it was truly unique. I've worked on a lot of different shows, and there's something really special about Battlestar, and I think if you asked anyone on it, they would say the same thing. And we do try to get together as much as we can. I was in LA last year around this time, actually. It was just Edward James Olmos's birthday, and last year we had a big surprise party for him, and a bunch of people came. It was just, it's so wonderful, and it doesn't matter how much time passes. It's like we were together filming yesterday.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've had Trisha Helfer. She's been on. TJ Scott and Dennis Illick. I keep in touch with Dennis, the cinematographer, and they have said the same thing, because it is a cast and crew all together as well, and obviously Richard as well. They all had the massive. Everyone's, not one of you has said anything different about how you felt. Yeah,
I know. I sometimes think, like, wow, we must be so boring. We just say how great everything is. People in this culture want, like, dirt and drama, and we just don't. We don't have that.
No, that's cool. Actually, bringing about a cast, I was going to leave this till later, but I'll fit it in now, since one of your fellow castmates, I've got to say, I actually geeked out when I got sent this in a DM. Aaron Douglas would like to know, do you forgive him for punching you?
Oh, of course. The thing about that scene is I honestly think it was harder for him than it was for me. Harder for him and harder for everyone watching it. Like, I got to just lie there and close my eyes and keep my fingers crossed that I didn't get injured. But I can only imagine, I mean, any guy, is trained from the moment you can, know how to punch the air, that you do not hit a girl, right? So it's like in your DNA that's not okay. Mm-hmm. And not only that, I mean, we were close friends, and to do that even for pretend, I just can only imagine went against every cell in his body. So I absolutely forgive him, and I think he did a great job, because I think that people were very moved, like I think it was a very impactful and powerful scene. Well, I don't know if he told you this, but he kind of actually did punch me in the face on one of the crying, on one of the takes, and it was really funny because, like, I opened my eyes. I don't know if you've ever been hit with like a basketball or something, and you just like your eyes just shut and you can't. Yeah. It's like involuntary. You can't open them, and my eyes started watering, and his reaction, from what I remember, which, keep in mind, I don't trust memory 100%, but I do remember him being like, I didn't do it, and I'm thinking, like, if you didn't do it, I'm pretty sure I didn't do it, but I think that it just, like, he felt so guilty, and certainly I didn't blame him. Like, we're trying to make a realistic scene, and that's just the risk you take. So I certainly never held a grudge. The part about him being a Cylon, I'm still a little bummed about, but with that scene, yes, of course I forgive him.
Cool. Yeah. No, I geeked out because when I sent out for questions for you, and I woke up in the morning and I got one in my DM, and I was like, Aaron, I was like, no way. It's like, seriously.
That's so cool.
He did tell me, he goes, you were in tears afterwards. Well, obviously you've just explained why. So.
Yes, I have a picture somewhere of like holding an ice pack to my face, because of course the makeup people are concerned that I'm going to have like a black eye. Yeah. That's what they're worried about. So they were like, put ice on it, and I'll have to see if I can dig up that picture. But that's cool. Aaron is such a good sport. I mean, he was really such a generous actor and friend, and always looking out for everybody. So, like I said, I know that was way tougher on him than it was on me.
Excellent. I did actually send an invite to him on my show after that question, but I've not heard back from him for that. Yeah, he's not responded to me on that one. Never mind.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. He will. What was the best memory you have working on Battlestar?
That's such a tough question. All the memories that I treasure the most are just interactions and time, like moments that I shared with different people on the show. I think the episode that stands out the most, that it was the most meaningful to me, was my last one. Yeah. Spoiler alert if people haven't seen it, it's bad. But it was really incredible to have the opportunity to play out that storyline while going through something similar, because my whole, my role on the show was also coming to an end, which in some ways felt like a death. Like it was a loss of a part of my life that was very important and prominent and meaningful to me. So it was really emotional. And I felt really honored by the writers when they told me ahead of time that my character was gonna get the, go. They were kind enough to sort of give me a heads up so I didn't just read it in the script. Yeah. And although it was very sad and disappointing, I trusted that the writers would give me a good death. So I was a little bit excited too, to read like, okay, what's going to happen? Because I know I'm not just going to they're going to say, oh yeah, Cally, she, whatever, jumped out the window. Like it was going to be something good and dramatic. And I think that it was. I feel like they were successful in honoring the arc that she had and the struggle that she was going through, and definitely as an actor, getting to play those scenes as hard and dark as they are, those for me are the most rewarding. I'd much rather, be crying all day than like standing around pretending to screw in something into a viper. So, yeah. So I really, really enjoyed it, and it was really challenging. But like I said, also moving, and kind of gave me an opportunity to go through and process some of the emotions that I was feeling, considering I was going to be leaving the show at that time.
Yeah.
And then in terms of like lighter things, like I said, Aaron and I had so much fun together. It was a little bit weird when I found out that we would have this romance, because we're like brother and sister. Like we just don't relate in any romantic way. And I think that the writers maybe on some level knew that and were considerate of that, because we didn't have any sex scenes. Thank goodness. I mean, so I love him dearly, but like not like that. And so I joke about, me being Cally being one of the few characters who has a baby through immaculate conception, because, it's not that there's no sex on the show. Like there's a lot of that, but I was able to get around that and still have a baby. And so anyway, Aaron and I would always be playing jokes on each other, and I was hanging out with a friend's kid the other day and introducing her to Ralph Wiggum quotes. You're familiar with Ralph from The Simpsons, right? Yeah. So, and it just brought back so many memories, because Aaron and I would some days, like, we would have whole conversations just using Ralph Wiggum quotes. And I'm sure the sound guys thought we were totally insane, because we forget, or I would forget, that you have a microphone on all the time, and that the sound guys are always listening. And so we would just be goofing around, and the sound guys, I'd glance over and they'd be giggling, and I'd be like, oh my God, I forgot that they actually can hear us. And we would also try to crack each other up, like make fart sounds before, right before they yelled action and things like that. So yeah, we had a lot of fun for considering how dark the show was. The content material. We were really fortunate to have so many actors who had really great senses of humor. I think that's necessary when you're working with that kind of material.
Yeah, I think so, just to keep it light. So who was the biggest prankster on set?
Probably Aaron and James. I don't know if James Callis was necessarily a prankster, but he was hilarious. Like, he's just such a funny, smart guy to be around. Yeah. But I would recommend, because I don't have the best memory for these things, but if people want to watch the blooper reels, there's some really funny pranks, like where there's one that I just thought of where Candace McClure, who played Duala, like, she walks into this serious scene with Ty, and she's just wearing a tiara for no reason. Like, like, just, and he goes through the whole scene. He doesn't even flinch, which is the best part. And then there's another one where, like, Jamie Bamber lets his towel drop, or things like that. Like, we do a lot of kind of spontaneous things, hoping that the crew won't get pissed. Because when you do that, you're wasting people's time. So you kind of have to balance whether it's worth it or not, because it's expensive, and time is money. But I feel like there's a certain value to bringing that levity and people being able to be playful and have fun on set too. So we kind of toyed with that line often.
Fair enough. Again, it's a good, like you say, it's a good way to be. It's good to have some fun on set and prank around a bit.
Yeah, it's essential, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Now, the question I've got here, so you've got to work not once, but twice with the late, great Richard Hatch. When he was on Battlestar Galactica, how did the cast react having the original Apollo on set and be a part of the show? That must have been something special.
As far as I know, everyone was very welcoming. I know that he had reservations at the beginning, but I think he came around once he saw the quality of the show. Yeah. And I thought it was really cool the character that he got to play, considering, you know, kind of his journey with Battlestar and how much he wanted to keep it going. And I just thought it was all done really well. And I like I said, I didn't watch the original, so I didn't really know who he was, but I always liked him and enjoyed working with him. And I think one of the first days that we were on set together was when, like, we were working in the jail, and I know, for whatever, I think it was when I bit the guy's ear off, so I had like blood all over my face, and I'm pretty sure I have pictures somewhere of me and Richard like eating lunch, and I have blood all over my, like, it looks like I had, like, I was eating fries with ketchup, and I just couldn't get it together. So I think that was maybe the first time we worked together. And then after that, I think I would say I got to know him a lot better from doing conventions. Not so much from being on set, but we would cross paths at a number of conventions and just hang out together. He's such a lovely, thoughtful, or he was. It's really hard to get that in your brain. But he was always wanting to know, you know, how I was doing, what I was doing. And I saw him do this with everyone that he met. He'd want to know what they were passionate about and what they loved and what they cared about. And if they weren't doing that, how could they take one little step in that direction? Like, how could they follow their dreams? How could they find their purpose? He was so sweet in that way. And so yeah, over the years we became pretty close. Like, we would stay in touch, and then see each other at conventions. And I just saw him being always so generous with the fans and so enthusiastic about the show and everything. And then I got to work with him one last time on Personal Space.
Excellent. I mean, I've got to say, I will credit him as well for some of the passion that he put into me. And I will say, because when he came on my show, I think they've got half an hour recorded, but we spoke for about another half an hour, 40 minutes after that. I was, you know, we're going to do acting. I was going to take up his classes, and he was very, very passionate and, you know, encouraging. So yeah, I'll give, really brilliant.
That's wonderful.
I wish I'd gone to a convention in the States where you guys had been at, because I managed to meet Dirk Benedict and Herb Jefferson last year, Boomer and Starbuck. They're very nice guys.
They're great too. They're great. I both of them actually I've connected with and became friends with Dirk. But they're very different. I mean, they each of them have such different personalities. So that's cool.
Dirk was very sly, and I think at the time he was holding the bar up.
Classic.
Yeah, it's like, no, he kept seeing me coming back and going, "It's you again." I was like, "Yep, sorry."
Nice.
Cool. So, I mean, obviously, talking about Personal Space now is you're you know, you're going to be back on our radar again. It's a web series, which is Personal Space. What can you tell me about the show, as much as you can without spoilers?
Totally. Yeah. No, I love talking about it because I think it's a brilliant premise, especially for a web series and for something that was made on a very low budget and, you know, with a small casting crew who all just were very passionate about making it happen. So it's set in kind of a parallel time where the government has sent this generation ship out into space in the 90s, and 20 or 25 years or so have passed. And on a generation ship, you know, what it means is there's like one crew, and then once they've kind of run their course, then they go into cryo, the new crew comes and takes over. And I play Gail Gartner, the commander of the second shift. Yeah. And so I'm replacing Richard Hatch's character. And what's unique about what the whole kind of premise is centered around is there's a therapy computer on the ship that everybody's mandated to have these therapy sessions with, which of course the original intention was that the computer would help process people, record what's going on for them, and kind of keep the peace. But what no one on the ship knows is that the mission was since sold to a private corporation, and all of their therapy sessions are being broadcast to Earth as a reality show.
Right.
So what you get as a viewer is you get the reality show, like on Earth, you know, you hear the host commenting on what's going on, and then you get insight through the therapy computer into what's going on the ship. So you get to hear the therapy sessions and also see some of the scenes that happen in the therapy room.
Okay.
So it's really ripe for comedy, which is very exciting for me because I love comedy, and Battlestar was not comedy. It was very dark. So to do something sci-fi, but that also incorporates a lot of quirky comedic material was really, really cool. And what else can I tell you? Did that? What else? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah.
Did I cover it? Yeah. Oh, there's one more thing. There's one thing which I don't think gives it away, but basically, what happens is the computer gets an upgrade.
Right.
And so instead of kind of keeping the peace, it starts to poke and incite conflict.
Right. Okay.
Amongst the crew members. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that is pretty much Big Brother then, because that kind of does the same. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Yeah.
Excellent.
It's basically Big Brother in space.
Awesome. It does sound really, really good, and I can't wait. It's out next week, isn't it? March the 6th, is it?
Friday.
Friday,
Second
Friday.
Friday on Amazon.
Brilliant. Yep. I shall be getting that to watch. It's 28 episodes in the first series.
Yes.
Do you know if there's going to be a season 2 yet? Can you
we're
say?
Counting on it.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't. You know, in this business, you can never really say. Not because I don't want to, but just because you never know. But I think that's the plan. I think it's just a matter of figuring out how it's going to happen, because it's almost written, and obviously there's some cast, things that need to be sorted out. But there's different options. We did a Kickstarter to do this first season, and fans were super supportive and generous, and it went great. Like, we definitely, I think, had what we needed to make a good quality show. Yeah. But certainly you just can do so much more with a bigger budget. Yeah. So I think it's more a matter of like whether we get interest from a network or investors, or worst case scenario, maybe we do another crowdfunding campaign. But I think the plan, as far as I know, the plan is to do another one. And obviously we want to know if people like it. So for anyone who's listening who watches it, if they could write a review, a 5-star review, that would be really great when it comes out, because that will also, increase the likelihood of being able to continue.
Definitely. And especially with being on Amazon as well, you've got a straight platform there. So, with those reviews coming in, then that's a perfect place for, like you say, networks, Amazon, Netflix, and Vimeo. They're all great places now to pick up series that,
exactly.
Yeah, and push them across and get them become successful. So that's brilliant. Hopefully we will see that. Yes. So I can't wait till Friday. So I'm going to go on to some fan questions that were sent in to me.
Sure.
So yeah, the first one is from Mark M, who his Twitter name is @TedVonPenguin. I love Twitter. Some cracking names out there. I came up with a really dull one. And everyone else comes up with brilliant.
It's all relative.
Yeah. So out the characters of Cally, Soledad, Gale, the Tiki Bar Space Cadet, or the singer from that one music video that you were in, which would you A, want on your team on trivia night?
Oh, that would definitely be Gail Gardner. She's a total know-it-all.
Okay, great. B, invite to your birthday party.
Probably the Space Cadet, because she's fun. Have you seen? I don't know if anyone's seen Tiki Bar TV. That was one of the first web series that kind of, my friend who created it kind of paved the way. He used to do talks and things about web series and how that was the future of content. So it's kind of interesting to see how things have come along in the last 10 years. But yeah, Space Cadet, she's fun. If I remember correctly, she was trying to learn Earth dance moves, so
fair enough.
she'd be fun
she'd be good. She'd be the party. Yeah. She'll probably still be better than I was at dance moves. And the last one is Ask to Pet Sit. Which one would you want?
Ask to Pet Sit?
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, Soledad, which was my character in God Killer, is a bounty hunter who I think is someone you want on your side. Like she's fiercely loyal and protective. So I think she'd kind of, she wouldn't let anyone mess with your pet.
That fair enough. Excellent.
Yeah.
Another one is from a regular from my show is Simon Barry Brisbois. He's a Canadian, French Canadian. What are your fondest memories of working on Dark Angel, Dead Zone, and Smallville?
Okay.
3 shows, 3 questions, I guess.
Yeah. Dark Angel, again, it was, well, I think for all of them, my fondest memories are the relationships that I built with the people on the show. Mm-hmm. Sarah Jane Morris was an actress that I met on Dark Angel, and we became friends during shooting and just had a lot of fun. I hung out with, Jensen Ackles and that whole crew. And actually, the kid who plays Boxy in Battlestar was also part of that little group that I was in Dark Angel. So it's really, really neat. Just having those relationships. It's very cool when you get to just meet other interesting people and get to act together. And then Smallville, same sort of thing. Although Smallville was a very short job. I played a waitress, and I think more than anything, I just learned that waitressing is not my calling. I did my very best to pretend, but it was not. I didn't even know how to hold the tray. I felt so awkward. You'd think it's something pretty basic, but it wasn't. That's not my strength. I'm sure I could learn, but I haven't put in the time. But I did get to know Kristen Crook a little bit, and what's his name, who played Luthor, Lex Luthor. I remember him being kind of a jokester.
And I can't remember his name. Oh no. I
don't remember his name right now either. But you know who I'm talking about.
I know,
yeah. And then what was the other one? Dead Zone?
Dead Zone, yeah. Yeah, Dead Zone.
Oh, actually, I have a funny story. So Anthony Michael Hall, right? Is Dead Zone, and huge fan. I was a huge, of all the 80s movies that he was in. And funny enough, I went to a Strokes concert. Actually, it all links together. So Sarah Jane Morris's boyfriend, she was on Dark Angel with me, was playing, his band was opening for the Strokes in Vancouver.
Right.
And so I went, and I got to go and get backstage passes and hang out with them and see the Strokes. And it was so funny because Anthony Michael Hall was sitting next to me in the audience.
Right.
So I was like, oh my God, that's I know that. I think I'm working with that guy. And so the next day I show up to work. I'd probably stayed out a little too late the night before, but I showed up to work, and he just I sit down next to him in the makeup trailer, and he's like, did you have fun last night? And I wasn't sure if he was judging me or just genuinely asking, but I was like, yes. Implying, I thought he might have been implying I should have been home resting, but he was there too. So
exactly.
I thought that was a funny moment.
Cool. Yeah, pots and kettles. He couldn't say anything.
Exactly.
Cool. And the other question Simone would like to know is, what acting techniques do you do to fight off stage or camera fright, or remember your lines?
I don't know that stage or camera fright,
if you get it, you might not even get it.
I didn't have that. In terms of memorizing lines, I'm lucky in that I'm a quick memorizer. If you ask me days after I film the scene, I won't remember anything, but I can, I think it's maybe a good skill for when you cram for tests. It's you can get it all in there the night before, do the test, and then it's gone, which is not it's not a way to be a smart person at all, but it comes in handy when you need to memorize a lot of things. And if it's good writing, it's really not that difficult to memorize things because it makes sense and you can kind of like put it into your emotional experience, not just your head or the theory of it. So I would just kind of walk around and try to say the lines a lot of different ways, because I think a trap that you can fall into is saying it or learning lines when you're in a specific state, or like even if it's something as simple as you memorize it while you're sitting at a table and then you're in the scene and you're standing and you don't have the same access. So learning lines and saying them in as many different ways so that it's in there, and then you can be more present and in the moment with whatever comes up in the scene.
Yeah. Excellent.
And then I think relating what's going on in the scene to things I've experienced in my own life was the most helpful tool, you know, to really, you know, if I'm supposed to be missing someone, to think about someone that I really miss, and just then it's so easy to bring up that emotion and kind of overlay it with what's going on in the scene, which again goes back to why having a rich life experience is one of the most valuable things as an actor. Because if you haven't really gone through much, it's hard to know what that's like, you know. It's hard to know like what it's, and even now, like I look back on some of the scenes that I've done, and because I know myself and I know my emotional life, you know, I'm like, oh, I was so innocent back then. Like I look at it like I had no idea what that would have been like. I tried my best, but there's a certain depth that I think you can only earn by living. Yeah.
That's lovely. And you're right, it's the way there. And I love what you said about learning your lines in different places as well, because that's kind of helpful to me at the moment, because on Friday, I don't know if my Facebook's been listed with it. I've been invited, which is a privilege, to actually host a Q&A panel at the post-film of the UK premiere of an independent film that's been coming out. So I interviewed the director, and I can't wait. It's obviously, you know, I've got the director, I've got the lead actor, specialists in the field, because it's all about mental health awareness, and there's a lot of high-profile guests going to be in the audience. So 100 of them. I'm used to speaking one to one. I can talk for, as you realised, I can talk for Britain. But, don't say it like that. But yeah, so when I'm obviously going to be 100 people there, so I'm trying to do the same sort of thing and push myself, but in different situations. You know, I'm either at work or at my desk, or if I'm walking down, I'm going over what I'm going to, and because I know that then when I'm there, regardless of what the situation, I'll have it in my head what I need to say. So it's a great technique.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that's cool. That's exciting.
It is, yeah. I'm just hoping I don't fluff it up.
You know, it's such an interesting thing. I started doing stand-up comedy.
I see.
And as much as I've been on stage and been, you know, in front of cameras, and even like thousands of people at conventions, speaking in front of them, and been fine. Going into a comedy club with, 20 to 30 people to do an open mic was the most terrifying experience of my life. But terrifying, I don't mean like there was nothing bad about it, but I was so nervous. Like my fight or flight, you'd think I was running from a tiger in the jungle. I was shaking, and like the night before I had nightmares and I like couldn't eat anything. So it's so interesting how there's distinctions in, I guess, the meanings we make about different things or what people will think. And comedy I find really vulnerable. Like playing a character is one thing. Being on stage because people are already my fan, and if I happen to be funny, that's a bonus, but I don't have to be. You know what I mean? Like that just makes them maybe like me more, whatever. Like it's not much pressure, but to go on stage and with the premise that if I don't make you laugh, I fail. And I will know within seconds whether I fail and have to continue on that. Like, that was just so excruciating. But after I did it, it was the most liberating experience, because just realizing that I don't die, that I actually did okay too. Like, I got some laughs, and I've done it a number of times since then, and it gets easier. Like, I think some of these things you just have to go out and do it. And just because you suck at the beginning, or not even suck, but like get really scared, you know, it just takes time to move through that, and then you'll be fine. So it's kind of, I think sometimes we think that there's something wrong because we feel so crazy, and it's like, oh my God, I shouldn't be doing this. What's going on with me? I know it's not a big deal. Why am I reacting? But our bodies are wired in weird ways, and sometimes you just have to accept that and not make it a big deal. And then after you do it a number of times, you'll be better at it. Cool. So I'm sure this is, you know, you'll do great. You'll probably feel nervous and sweaty, and that's fine. And every time you do it, it'll get easier.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be more than one time to do it. But
yes.
I've already had I told a few directors. I said, well, when we have our UK premiere, you can do ours as well. So I was like, yes, please. So
there you go. See, that's how it works.
Yeah, it's great. Little Bear, who is at DG_Little Bear. If you could read minds and plant thoughts I'll say that again, because I actually thought you meant read plants. If you could read minds and plant thoughts in other minds, would you?
No, I don't think so. No, I think, well, first of all, I mean, that would be quite a responsibility. I don't know that I'd want to read people's minds. But I think one of the most amazing things about being human is how many different perspectives we all have, and how unique everyone's beliefs and thoughts and opinions about everything is. And obviously there are times when I wish people didn't have the opinions they have, but I think we grow so much by interacting with people who are different and being able to consider different thoughts and ideas. And I can't imagine a circumstance where I would think that I would know best what someone should think. So I think, I don't think I would plant thoughts in other people's minds. No. With great power comes great responberry.
Yeah. You could end up, exactly. You could, that's a very dangerous path you could go down.
I don't know.
Excellent. The last question from fan is from Sean Jordan. He's actually someone I work with who was very excited when I told him I was talking to you as well. Is, in Battlestar, had Cally been alive in the last episode, what would she have done? Do you think she'd have stayed with the fleet, or would she have gone on the suicide mission?
I have no idea how to answer that. Well, this is a little dark, but like, considering what she ended up choosing, probably a suicide mission. She was going to commit suicide anyway. It seems the natural course of things. But having said, it really depends kind of on like which part of her character you focus on, because there was the part of her that just couldn't deal with what was going on and didn't want to exist in that reality anymore. And then there was the part of her that was so against the Cylons and didn't want to have any part of this whole thing. Like there's that line where she says she signed up to go to dental school. Like she wasn't a fighter. She didn't have a passion for winning this war, to just be like, not want to deal with it.
Fair enough. Thought that'd be a tricky one.
Yes, that is tricky.
Cool. And now time for my signature question before we sort of stop recording. Well, not this. Now, I can't remember if I sent you this one before, but this basically, I had a guy who was on my show last year, Mike Quinn, lovely guy. He was in Return of the Jedi as Nine Nom, and he's been a Muppeteer with Jim Henson for 30 years.
Wow.
So someone threw this question to me for him, and it turned out to be such a good question. I was like, right, I've asked so many guests afterwards, and some of the variations are great. So, if you could have a Muppet created after you, which kind of character would you be like? Or you can have a mix of them. It can be one that's existing or a brand new one.
Oh my god, I wish I was better versed in
Muppets.
in the Muppets. Can you give me some hints to jog my memory? It's been a while.
You've got Kermit, Miss Piggy.
You've got like
Fozzie Bear.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'd see a bit of Fozzie Bear in you because it's like comedy, fun loving. Oh, I've lost you. Oh, I lost you there. Sorry, Nikki.
We back?
We are.
We're doing so well.
I know. We got right to the end almost.
Yeah.
I'll ask that one again.
Saved by the bad Skype reception.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So just kind of. So I can see you kind of like a Fozzie or part of you.
Or animal. No.
Yeah.
I think him probably the most just because of that isn't he the one who has that annoying song like dun 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 mana dun 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 mana? Is that him?
That's the Muppets, yeah, there you go.
That's stuck in my head. You know, I went down a rabbit hole recently with all these Kermit memes.
Oh yeah.
Have you read them? They're so funny, and I don't even remember Kermit well enough to know like how they relate to Kermit, and maybe they don't, but I think they're hilarious. And I was at a convention recently that had a cartoonist who does Muppet drawings.
Yeah. And
so he made me this really cool drawing of me like with my arm around Kermit and then Piggy in the background, like, or Miss Piggy, sorry.
Yeah.
You know, like fuming, jealous in the background. It was really cool. But I think, yeah, Kermit's such a classic. Now you're making me want to go watch the show so I can have a good answer. Missed my chance. But all of those, I feel like the Muppets, they all kind of represent different aspects of, you know, being human and our personalities, right? I feel like we all have a little bit.
We do. I was going to do my Kermit. Actually,
versions. Yeah.
I was going to do a Kermit. I don't know if my voice is up to it. I'm not upset, but I sang, his song, the Rainbow Connection. I won't do that for you now. I did that on Smule as Kermit, which was quite funny. It wasn't brilliant. I was like, hello, hey Nikki, it's Kermit here, Nikki. It doesn't really sound like Kermit. It sounds like a different Muppet.
Oh, that's great. That's great. That's excellent. Good job.
It's a pity you weren't in Star Wars because the Yoda, when 900 years old, you reach look as good. You will not.
That's awesome. That's great.
So you should be voice actor.
You should do voiceover work. Yeah.
The Donald Duck. So I'll do McDonald. Sorry, Donald Duck sneezes.
That's awesome.
So there you go.
That's
Sorry.
Great.
So before we stop recording, is there anything you'd like to say to people who are watching or listening? Any last things?
I just want to thank all the loyal Battlestar fans who've been so supportive over the years. I feel so lucky to be kind of an honorary member of the sci-fi community through my work on Battlestar and going to conventions. It's just such a privilege and so fun, and like the fact that I get to keep talking about the show and its ideas and the people is really meaningful to me, and couldn't do it without people who care about it so much. And just that I hope people will tune in to Personal Space and share their responses and reviews and support that journey too. So I think that's it.
Fantastic. Thank you.